order for a rubber sole to adhere to a leather shoe you're working on, you have to rough it up. And it needs to look pretty rough when you're done, because the cement doesn't have anything to hold to. It will just peel off. So I use a 36 grit piece of sanding paper. These discs come in a 4 or 5 pack, and they're supposed to go on a drill tool. You can put these on a drill or a drill press and sand. I have one like that, but most of the time I just stick my finger in the middle and then just really bear down on it and just sand away. Some shoe soling material, some rubbers, and some neoprene or whatever they're made out of are easier to sand than others. Some of it is very difficult to sand. Vibram, some of the Vibram stuff is very hard to sand. You got to really work at it, put some effort into it to get them to sand. Always go all the way out to your edges too. This particular stuff is SVIG cross soling. It's got a cross pattern on it. I like it a lot. It's real flexible. And I cut it in a piece like this. I'm gonna make sure we get sanded all the way to the outside edges. That way, I'm gonna put glue or the cement, contact cement, all over the whole body of this, and then we can, once we put it on the bottom of the shoe, which is also requires a lot of sanding, being leather, however, it is much easier to sand. But it needs to be roughed up as well. As you can see, we're getting some scratches in there. And we want to make sure the edges, we get those very well. You can see the scratches and where I haven't sanded. And so you look at it and you can see some shiny spots that, aren't sanded as well, like right there. So we'll fix that, sand it. And it's kind of dusty, but you don't have to go all the same direction. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it seems like it's easier to go a ways, and then it seems like it's not sanding real easy. Try directions or spin your, see, we're starting to load up this sanding disc a little bit. Just turn it a little bit so you got a little bit, and then it'll start cutting real good. Looking pretty good. There's a shiny spot. Not bad. Okay. See those scratches? That's what we want. And we also want it on the bottom of the shoe. Obviously this one has had a sole on it before that's taken off, but same thing here. The old glue, this was a foam on it. but if there's old cement, it is not going to hurt. If it doesn't sand off, that's great. It's already stuck, but you need to rough it up as well. Same thing. You just sand it, and this one I've already sanded. Where there's a spot down here, it looks like it's a little bit of sand in there, a little smooth, because it will not adhere. That contact cement will not adhere very well to any smooth surface. And this particular one has this bottom has been sewn together here in the center, so I want to make sure I don't weaken those threads, but I don't want to sand them. But I've sanded the foam down that was over the top of it, and it's rough, so it'll adhere, and it's in the center. So the main areas that are going to want to lift are on the heel and on the side of the ball and then the toe. So you want to get all the way out to where you're going to be putting your sole. You can take a rag and just wipe the sawdust or sanding dust off. It'll surprise you how much actually is on there. And then also on your bottom of your shoe, go ahead and dust that off too. Doesn't hurt. Probably about get by if you didn't, but I use, this is cement that I use. Emu brand, SAR 36. It's an all-purpose cement, contact cement. And the key to whatever contact cement that you use is to read the directions and follow the directions. And they're all going to tell you to rough up your surfaces like what we did. And on this particular can it says material must be free of oil and grease before attaching soles. Roughen up the surfaces, this and then the shoe, leather, and then brush on one coat on both parts. Let dry 10 to 40 minutes depending on quantity used. Join parts and hammer if needed. 2 coats may be applied. So when they say 2 coats may be applied, you put one on and then let it get a little bit dry and then put another coat on. I'd never do that. So I always said trying to use it out of that big half-gallon jug. I just pour it into a pudding jar or something like that. And I need one piece of cardboard here, looks like. So then I will go ahead and put glue on these. And you just brush it on. Make sure you get it clear to the corners. And we've got 10 minutes for it to dry. I usually just go the minimum. And have very good luck with it. Get clear to the ends. We have plenty of room on each end that we don't need to go clear to the ends, but when we're actually putting our shoe sole together, if we get a little off, a little far to the front or to the back or to the left or to the right, it's nice to know that the glue is all the way out there. And then we got a little extra room. This second one here, this left one, is just a little bit wider than the other. Got a little more room to error on, so that'll be the first one that I put on. And so I just go back over the top of it a couple of times to kind of even any high spots out. You can see it's already starting to dry. It's looks like it's drying right in here. So, and this stuff isn't really probably the healthiest thing to be breathing. Probably would be good if I had a window open, or I have a mask. A lot of times I'll wear that, but guess I'm not today. If you get too much on, you can just take your brush and scoop it up and wipe it back in your jar, or wipe it on the bottom of the shoe, because that's where we're going to go next. But sometimes it looks like, oh gosh, you got a whole bunch extra, but as you start spreading it out, it kind of just takes care of itself. Okay, get that out of the way. Now, do the same thing here. And again, I'm pretty lucky. I've got kind of a setup here where I can have this on the last. But it's the same principle. You don't need a last to do this. And again, we want to make sure we get all the way, and if we get a little past where we're actually going to put our sole, that's okay, because it will clean up off of the leather. We want to make sure we get it all the way, clear, like when we sanded it, clear to the edge where we sanded. And in my opinion, more is not necessarily better. I always have real good luck with just, just a decent coat that isn't globbed up anywhere. If you've got low spots, or holes or something like that, like needle holes and stitching and stuff, I'll make sure I try and work that glue into those old holes, like where this was. Okay, so that one looks pretty good. I think we have cement all the way. Yeah, I'm going to set this over here. Just going to lean it up again. There we go. And And it looks like we're going to have just about the right amount of glue poured out. If there's a little left over in the jar, that's good because we've got to glue that midsole in, or that, not midsole, that sock. And this brush, you get these at the hardware store, and they use it for when they do plumbing. So they're usually over in the plumbing section, and it's I think they call it a flux, F-L-U-X brush, and it's used to apply flux when they're soldering copper pipes. So, and they come in a pack, like 25 of them in a package for $2 or $3, I think. They're not very expensive, and they work really well. As you can see, they're not very wide. It allows you to kind of control where you go. And then when they get all gooey, start to dry, you can throw it away. Okay, so I'm going to look at the clock, give this 10 minutes, and it's been just a little over 10 minutes since I finished putting cement on the last shoe bottom. So that means that the first one is probably 15, maybe closer to 20 minutes for the very first piece we started. So we're probably pretty good to start working. And this is a first piece, and this is the first sole. And you can touch it. It's just a little bit tacky, but it doesn't stick to your fingers. Now, sometimes when you're doing this, you get rubber cement or contact cement on your fingers, and and it dries too. If you still have it on there, it will stick. I mean, you're not going to get stuck to it, but you can feel it. It sticks. So now I've lined this up on my cutting board here, so I got something to go off of. And the rest of it is just going to be lining it up, eyeballing it, and setting it down. And the nice thing on this cross-soling is the pattern is not really, like some of the other soles where it's hard to see, if easy to see if they are not exactly perfectly lined up. So I just start at the back, set it down, and it's going to pretty much stick. And then we just kind of look on each side and roll it. And we are stuck. And then I'm just going to press on it with my hand. Make sure it's good and tight. And then I'm just going to set that aside. Now I'm going to do the other one. Line it up there so it's relatively straight. I guess that probably doesn't really matter, but I do it. I'm going to set this one down. Look at it, make sure we're good, straight as we can be. Put the heel down. Just kind of roll it up. Now, if you didn't have a last, I'm lucky, I do. I have a last. But if you didn't, with this, you could, put your hand inside. And if I was doing it without a last, I would probably start at the toe and work back. But the same principle. Now, it says on the deal, you can hammer if you want. I do. If you don't have a last, it's harder to hammer, but you can put a piece of wood in there. You can find something, that you can put inside to hammer on it. And again, I am lucky, so I just put it on my stand, and then if you didn't have any way to get in to hammer that to give it some support, I wouldn't get too worried about it. I just do it because it says on the can, hammer if you want. So of course, then I want to. I'll do this one. There, done. Go try them on and see how they work. Not really. We're going to trim them. And to do, I'm going to go ahead and take these lasts out when I trim them, because it allows me to fold the leather and get a lot closer. To the edge where I want it. Just a decent pair of shears. And this being really nice and soft, I can hold it and get a real nice close trim. And just take your time. That's another nice thing on this sheet soling, is it not only is it really super soft and super flexible, but it's easy to cut. Like you get to the heavier, and hold your scissors upright too. I tend to often myself get a little bit of an angle on it. And see right here, fold that back. On stiffer leather shoes, it's sometimes a little harder to trim or push that down to and then back here where we've got this extra stitching might be, it's not going to be bad. And again, remember, with the good pair of shears, you got to be careful that you do not get too close and start cutting into the leather on the shoe. You can see we're sticking, this sole is stuck. It's not going to come off. If you didn't get a good cement on it, sometimes when you start pulling these, or good prep on your surfaces, you start pulling this leather over like that, it just keeps right on pulling right off. And there's no need to clamp this, no need to do anything like that. So now, here, let's see this. So this is, this is what we just did. Two pieces that are prepped, we put them together, they're glued, tap on them a little bit, and those are stuck. You know, you can pull it off, but so there we go. So now I'll do the other one, just like this first one. So here is two pieces of this leftover that we just finished putting on the bottoms of these shoes. And so it's had the same amount of time to dry as pretty much what we've just done. So I just stuck them together, and let's hammer on them a minute. So there you go. That is how they will hold. You can peel it. But not very easily. So give this another 40 minutes to dry to finish curing out, and I mean, it's not coming off. You can get it off, and that's the nice thing about it, is you can get it off, because if I wear these down and I decide I want them off, if I can get and put a new pair of soles on, and I want to get, you know, if I can get my finger under it or a tool under the edge, I can get it and I can start getting it to peel. And then you can get it to come off by pulling it at, you know, as separating it like this at the angle like that, and then pull. But if this was leather to leather, as hard as I'm pulling on that, it would be pulling the fibers out of the leather. And that's what happens when you do that, because it'll pull the fiber from the leather. It's probably been 30 or 45 minutes since we stuck this together. I just cut the ends off, threw the rest away as I was cleaning stuff up. Let's see how well that sticks now. There's no way, well, maybe a way, but it does not want to come off pushing it laterally from the side. It's not going to flex and come loose. I'll probably get my fingernail under it. Maybe. And get it to peel off. Let's see here. It's starting to. There. So it is pulling off. It does take some effort. And the wider it gets, the harder it is to pull. I bet if I started on this end, it would be really tough to get. But you can, which is good. And that way you can take off a worn out sole, sand it, and put it back together. But see, this is still sticking. You know, give this a couple of days and that would be a lot harder to pull off.